Hello my Evol enthusiasts, I'm Vampire Ian and welcome to Batty Decks, the series where I give you a profile on a deck that I've read up on a whim for your entertainment. While the Age of Overlord's release of the Bellstar archetype made Evol playable for basically the first time, Phantom Nightmare's new cards for the archetype plus the much talked about Bonfire have significantly boosted not just the consistency of the deck, but also the end board, allowing for more than, just a million negates. As the resident Evol defender, I want to show you what's new, so let's check it out. So here's the deck. Some of you might have seen me play this list over on Golden Nova's channel, but now you get to see an in-depth look into it. For those who don't know, and haven't watched either of my other two videos on the subject, Evol is an archetype about semi-digital lizards who evolve into semi-digital dinosaurs who evolve into digital dragons, just like Charles Darwin said. They had a brief period of playability on the release of their extremely powerful trap card, evo-singularity, which lets you make their extremely powerful Ixies monsters basically for free without having to get there naturally with the underwhelming effect of the main deck monsters. After that, they languished, give or take some individual pieces of support, until the release of Duelist Nexus, when 3 new monsters were added to the pool. Somehow, all 3 of them are good. But they still weren't enough, no matter how much I specifically tried to convince you. Then the release of the new lore archetype Bellstar and the entire year of fire support cards added a bunch of power to the deck. Before Phantom Nightmare, this really only led to tops of the OCG and mashup lists that made use of the consistency of evo-singularity to bolster decks trying to break Ogdoadic rather than trying to focus on the strengths of Evol. Now we have some more expansion to that powerful Bellstar archetype with the new Snake-Eye monster that lets us play a small Snake-Eye engine. Are these new cards enough to make the deck worth the massive price of playing it? Let's find out with a card by card. First, let's start with the Evols, which only make up about a fourth of the deck. It's a very svelte package. We've only got the 3 main deck guys, so let's start with Evoltile Mega Chirella, our level 1 fire monster, which can also tribute itself and discard a card to special an Evol Soar from deck. This is unfortunately a -1, but it's the best the deck has. It makes up for this by banishing itself from grave to refill your Evol Zars with a few more negates. Next we have Evol Soar Leos, the guy we are summoning off of Mega Chirella if it's not already in grave. This guy on normal or special says evo-singularity, letting us make an Ixies on our opponent's turn. If normal are summoned by a fire monster, it can also Foolish Burial a fire reptile or dino to change monsters on the field to the same type and level. This includes your opponent's side of the field as well. May come up. It can also, in very specific circumstances, allow you to make Evol Sars with Fenrir and Bellstar, but it will usually just be used to fill the graveyard for evo-singularity. Lastly, for the Evol monsters, we have Volcano, who when summoned by an Evoltile, summons an Evol Soar from grave, which is why we summon this guy off of Mega Chirella when Leos is in grave, thus giving us both evo-singularity and a rank 4 Ixies or a bigger Appaloosa, just more link material in general. If you draw this guy, it really sucks though, so just don't do that. Simple as. Next we have our 1 Evo Diversity. It's a Rhoda for the whole archetype, but it's got a hard once per turn on it, and it's actually not really essential that we draw any of these Evols, so we only play the 1 copy. Lastly, we have the craziest trap card of all, Evo-Singularity. It allows you to target an Evoltile and an Evol Soar, specifically from grave to make an Evol Zar level agnostic. We play 3 of this card because it's incredible, and drawing into it can also be the difference maker, but also no once per turn on this, meaning you could do this as many times in 1 turn as you have copies on the field. Also, this guy's a normal trap, so if you find a cool way to use transaction rollback to get even more activations of this without making the deck bricky as hell, please let me know. Next up, we have our Snake Eyes, starting with Poplar, the new guy who makes this build work. When it's added to hand, except by drawing, you can special summon him, and then when specialed or normaled, add a Snake Eye spell or trap from deck to hand. Lastly, when he goes to grave, you have to put him right back on the field as a continuous spell. This gives you more material to use other effects. We only play the 2 because you literally don't want to draw it at all, but you do want to be able to pour your combo if you happen to draw him, so you gotta play the 2. Next is the unfortunately named Ash, which on summon adds a level 1 fire monster from deck to hand, including Poplar, but more importantly, including Mega Chirella. It can then send 2 face-up cards to grave to summon a Snake Eye from hand or deck. We'll get to who you're summoning in a second, but first, let's look at your recovery guy, Oak. This guy on summon grabs a level 1 fire monster from grave and adds it to hand or summons it, and then it has the same summon from deck effect as Ash. This effect will be summoning their boss monster, Snake-Eye's Flamberge Dragon. Despite being the boss monster, this guy has been relegated to being a combo piece in most decks, and this one is no exception. While it's still on the field, it can target a monster on the field or grave to turn into a continuous spell, and then as a quick effect can special summon a monster that's currently a continuous spell during your opponent's turn. Unfortunately, that mostly doesn't matter, and instead we're going to focus on how if it's sent from hand or field to grave, you can special summon 2 level 1 fire monsters from the grave. This provides incredible extension, especially in combination with Salaman Great Sunlight Wolf, which we'll be getting into in the extra deck. And next we have my wife, Diabellstar, a copy which was very generously gifted to me by Ubel superfan and friend of the channel, Carp. Thank you so much, I really appreciate it. She summons herself by a discard. You can discard Poplar, Leos, and Volcano, those are usually good ones to discard, and on summon sets a Sinful Spoils spell or trap to the field, dodging Droll in a way that the rest of the deck really does not, unlike the previous build, so that's something to keep in mind here. Despite this, because there is a very good search card dedicated to her, we really only need to play the 2 copies of her. Also, just as a bonus effect, during your opponent's turn, if she's sent to the grave, she can special summon herself back by sending a card from hand or field, which is neat. Now for the targets, which are search targets for both Diabellstar and her funny little guy Poplar. First, we have our primary search target, Original Sinful Spoils Snake-Eye. This card is a combo piece, sending a face-up card on field to grave to special summon a level 1 fire monster from deck. If you can do full combo, this will be Ash, if not, it's Mega Kyrella. It can also banish itself from grave to recycle a Snake-Eye or Diabellstar to search a level 1 fire monster, but you likely won't do this. Our backup target for when we draw our main target or just get a second search in one turn is the similarly named Sinful Spoils of Subversion Snake-Eye. This is a removal spell targeting a face-up monster and placing it in the owner's spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. Just some unique removal that can be very helpful if you already have your combo. Next we have that searcher for Diabellstar I mentioned, Wanted, Seeker of Sinful Spoils. This quick play lets us search Diabellstar before the main phase to dodge Droll, and then in grave it can banish itself to recycle one of our other Sinful Spoils cards to draw a card, which is why you likely won't use their banish effects. However, it can also use the ones in banish, so if you want to, you can use the effect of Original Sinful Spoils Snake-Eye and then use Wanted to get extra value. Lastly, we have Bonfire, which isn't technically in either of the archetypes, but is only used for proccing the effect of Poplar, since it searches a level 4 lower Pyro monster. The hard ones per turn really sucks. It means that if we draw multiple, we just have to eat that failure, but the reward for consistency of the main combo is worth it, especially since the Poplar line for full combo doesn't require discarding a potentially good card. Alright, now the engine is done, let's talk about non-engine. First up is the best Evol card ever printed, Kashtira Fenrir. This guy is just incredible, searching another copy of himself so you can discard for Diabellstar, or use as follow-up for a white board and have a banish effect in response to attack declarations, or effect activations. Just good protection for all your monsters, especially important because your boss monsters are actually quite small in attack stats. Next up we have Ash Blossom to stop stupid stuff or to slow down your opponent's combos. Classic pick. Then we have Imperm, which does a similar thing but can't be hit by called by and can also be used offensively to let you combo or to turn off a careless spell placement. Then we have Veiler, which is Imperm but bad, but you know, that's still pretty good. After all that, we have 2 slots left, so I put in Duster to deal with back row heavy decks and called by to keep our line safe, especially from Droll. Now we have the extra deck, starting with Evolzars. We have 2 of my favorite guy, Evolzar Lars. If you don't know, this guy is crazy. He can't be targeted by opponent's card effects and has an Omni negate of any face-up cards in the field until the end of the turn. If all its material is dinosaur or reptile, which is basically all we play, then it gets 2 negates instead of just 1 as a detach lowers in cost. No once per turn on that, by the way. You get to use both in 1 turn. As a rank 6, we can only make it with evo-singularity, but you will want to make it more than once, so you're going to play the 2. Next is Lagia, who can negate a normal or special summon or a spell trap for both of its materials, basically making a solemn judgment, but it does have to use up all its materials in one go. And then we have Dolka, who can negate a monster effect for 1 material and destroy it, which is his utility over Apo or Lars. Additionally, you can make Lagia and Dolka with the Volcano line with Leos, so you don't have to use the trap card to make this, makes it a little bit more of a useful utility monster than Lars. Moving on from our digital dragons, next we have every Ixie's deck's best friend, Zeus. We can slap this guy on a mostly empty dragon that's attacked and clear the board with ease. Alternatively, if our opponent has summoned from the extra deck twice since the start of the last turn, we can use his boyfriend, Typhon, to slap on an empty dragon and then slap Zeus on top, although you're going to need to wait a turn for that. Luckily, Typhon is also powerful in its own right, preventing the activation of effects of monsters of 3000 attack or higher, and being able to bounce a monster to hand for a material. Unfortunately, not at quick effect speed. Now we have our surprisingly robust Link package where a lot of our combo is. Before we get to the combo though, because we play Links, we have access code the King of Links. He gets big, he pops cards, what more could you want? IP Masquerena lets us quick effect link summon with protection, making it for an easy SP Little Knight on the opponent's turn or a protected access code or Appaloosa. Little Knight represents 2 banishes on the turn that she's summoned, but also many more over the course of the game. She's been warping the metagame for a reason. Appaloosa is a potential part of our end board representing 3 to 4 monster negates on top of the many that we already have from evo-singularity. It costs her attack points though, meaning you're likely to only get a couple of negates out of her. I'd also like to mention that you're already playing a ton of negates, so Appo isn't exactly the best one to make in every situation, but she's still pretty good. Since we're playing a lot of level 1s, we should play Link Kuriboh or Anima or both. We're a little tight on space, so I went for Anima. Link Kuriboh can do a lot for a lot of other decks, but doesn't really accomplish much for ours, so I'm going to take the Steal effect instead to convert a level 1 monster into an equipment of opponent's monster that can be sent from field for cost of some effects. Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf is a combo piece, something you can make using Flamberge and another monster, likely Leos, and then summon back 2 Snake-Eyes from grave to proc Sunlight Wolf's effect, and then add Leos back to hand to normal summon next turn, and then get another evo-singularity. This allows you to link climb and gives the deck more follow-up. Next up is Promethean Princess, another new card from Phantom Nightmare. There's not really much to this one for us though, just an extender really. She summons a fire monster from grave to let you make another monster. She also can summon herself from grave when your opponent special summons a monster by destroying a fire monster on your field and a monster on your opponent's field. Unfortunately, she also locks you into summoning fire monsters, which can be very dangerous. If she didn't have that effect, there's actually a really cool board you could do turn 1 of using her and Masquerena to make Amblo Whale, popping Amblo Whale and the opponent's monster to summon her from grave, and then using Amblo Whale's effect to summon back Masquerena, and then using Masquerena to make Little Knight when you want to banish. Oh well. Speaking of Amblo Whale, we are playing it despite that play not working. It's a decent monster that is good for moving the Promethean Princess lock from field. There's not really many other good options, so you take what you can get. Lastly, we have Hita, which at this point basically any fire deck should be playing. With so many other fire decks in the meta currently, you're likely to have a fire target in the opponent's grave to summon to your field, and in a pinch, there's probably an Ash Blossom in there. She can also search a fire monster with 1500 or less defense when destroyed by an opponent's card effect, but unfortunately that's just not likely to happen. And now for the side deck. Again, I want to emphasize that I feel like there's a lot up in the air in regards to the side deck in a non-engine as we wait for the format to settle. Always try to think for the meta you expect to see, not necessarily what I expect to see. First up, we have Droll, the auto-win card against many decks. If you see Bonfire, put in Droll. Ghost Bell is a really good choice against a lot of graveyard-focused decks like Labyrinth and Fire King. Triple Tactics Talent gives us access to a wide variety of tools if our opponent interrupts us, including our own Sinful Spoils, Bonfires, and evo-singularity. We also have some additional targets in here like the ever-flexible Triple Tactics Talent, the Herald of the Abyss for towers removal, and Lightning Storm to deal with monsters who are a bit too big for us, and Back Row. Then we have 3 Forbidden Droplet to ditch some of those good to discard cards in exchange for a nice multi-target negate so we can actually play our turn. When you're as vulnerable to interruption as we are, you gotta have something to protect it. Now that we've gone through what we are playing, let's talk about what we're not playing. First up, we've cut a lot of the Evol stuff. There was always too much of it, and I only played it for safety's sake, and now we have plenty of safety. Goodbye, Elias, Folis, and the Yugioh. I'll miss you. Next, I'm not playing any Ogdoadics or Snake Rain. I always thought Ogdoadics were gimmicky, and anytime I see an Evol Ogdoadic deck, it's an Ogdoadic deck with an Evol side engine, rather than an Evol and Ogdoadic working in tandem. And now that the Rika cards are on the horizon, Ogdoadic has a whole pile. It still involves Evols, but to an even lesser extent. Speaking of, no Rika or Transcendosaurus cards because their big type groupings leave out one or more parts of our type grouping, and we really can't afford to get locked, especially since we also play a lot of cards outside of our type grouping. Pyro especially. Other than that, I can't really think of any other things you might play with this. It's not really a deck that people experiment with much, and there's just not a lot of cards that work with it. You could theoretically play some Dino cards, but I don't know, most of them don't really have much synergy with this archetype. Anyways, let's check out how it performs in some games. Alright, first game up, and it's a pretty decent hand. We've got the Bonfire to search Poplar, we've got an Ash, we've got Leos, we've got Ash. Oh, that's so annoying. And our opponent seems to be on some sort of Infernity Dark World pile. Let's see what happens. We're going to start. And we're going to start with the Bonfire. Poplar to hand. Poplar effect. Summon itself. I'm going to activate the effect, grabbing the original Sinful Spoil Snake-Eye. Snake-Eye effect. Summon Mega Chirella. Poplar effect has put itself on the board. Ash in hand, we're going to summon that, and then we're going to grab Oak for some follow-up plays. Mega Chirella effect, sending the Leos, which means we can summon the Volcano here. Volcano to get Leos. Leos effect to set evo-singularity. Ash effect to summon the Flamberge from deck. We'll use Leos and Flamberge to make Sunlight Wolf. Flamberge effect to summon back the Poplar and the Ash. You could theoretically summon Mega Kyrella here, but I want to just keep the Mega Kyrella safely in the graveyard. We're going to grab back the Leos to hand, although this does mean we don't have a Evol Soar in grave until we use a Volcano and all of them to make a 4-mat Appaloosa. Our opponent is going to set 3 and then Dark World Dealings. We're then going to activate the effect of evo-singularity to make ourselves a Lars. We realize our opponent's on much more spell traps than we thought they would be. They're going to Upstart Goblin. We're going to let that go through. It don't matter to me. They're going to Creepy Little Punk. We're going to negate that. They're going to activate summon Infernity Archfiend and then activate Dark Corridor. We're going to negate Dark Corridor. They're going to then activate the effect of Infernity Suppression. That's going to negate the Lars and allow the Dark Corridor to resolve. They're going to grab to hand the Beige, then send it to grave. They're going to activate the effect, and we're going to negate it with Appaloosa. They're going to go end phase. Our turn, we can draw Ash off the top. We're going to Leos summon. They're going to negate the effect and then destroy, which is fine for us because we've already got Appo and Lars here. We're going to Mega Kyrella to refill our Lars with some monsters, and then go to battle, getting over the Archfiend Infernity Archfiend, I mean, and then we're going to get in for some damage with Appaloosa. They're going to reset the Creepy Little Punk. They're going to activate it, and then we're going to negate it. Nope. And they're going to surrender on that. See? The deck's crazy. Wow, it's got so many negates. Realistically, we're not playing up against a particularly good deck, but I think this is a good showcase of what the deck is capable of. Now for game 2, we have a pretty stacked hand. It's got Fenrir, it's got Evo Diversity to search, it's got Volcano, a perfect brick in hand, it's got Flamberge, a perfect brick in hand, it's got Poplar, a perfect brick in hand, and our opponent is on the greatest meta tier threat, Metaphys, the best deck that's ever been printed. Let's see what happens. They're gonna activate as Ace of Metaphys. They're going to banish the Metaphys Armed Dragon to add Daedalus and then pass. We're going to summon Fenrir, and they're going to surrender. Okay, this wasn't really the game 2. I have another game 2. Don't worry about it. I just wanted to show this. It's so funny. All right, now for the real game 2 against Dynamist. Weirdly a good game though, I promise. We have in our hand a little bit of a brick of the Sinful Spells of Subversion, but that's not a bad thing necessarily, because that means we could just have an interruption in hand. We only have the Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils in hand, so we don't have like Bonfire, so we don't have the 2 searches in one turn, which means we can do everything we need to do, really. We're starting off here. Let's go Wanted. Really, you should be doing that in the standby phase. It's really hard to do that in Dueling Nexus, unfortunately. We're going to pitch the other Wanted to summon the Bellstar. We're going to get Impermed here, and we're going to have to pass on that. Unfortunately, not a whole lot we can do here. We don't even bother setting evo-singularity either, because we don't have any of the materials engraved to use it, so it's better just leaving it in hand. Our opponent's going to start with Dynamist Charge, a pretty powerful card if you don't know this card. Let's them add a Dynamist Plesio to hand. They're going to summon that, and they're going to summon the Ceratops, and then set the other as Scales, and then they're also going to set one of the Dynamist Howlings they have in hand. They're going to go battle here to trade, and then they're going to use the effect of Dynamist Charge to add that Ceratops back to hand. They're going to get in for 17 with Plesio, and they're going to summon that Ceratops back in the main phase 2. They're going to set the other Howling for some reason. They're going to Howling in the standby here to get Spinos into the Pendulum Scale. We're going to start with Mega Kyrella, not a bad one, but they're going to bounce that right back to hand, so we no longer have anything. We're just going to pass on that. Dynamist is kicking our ass for some reason. They're going to summon a Ceratops and go into Cleafort Genius. They're going to activate the effect of Charge to get the Plesio back to hand. And then they're going to Pendulum Summon to the 2 zones that Genius has that activates the effect of Genius, but we're going to Effect Veiler that to negate it. There's still a lot of damage on board though, so they're going to go battle, and they're going to get in for some damage. Not looking good for us. We are at 700 life points. And Bonfire off the top really does make the difference. We're going to add the Poplar to hand. Poplar effect to summon itself. Poplar effect. Grabbing the original Sinful Spoils. Activate the effect of Sinful Spoils, sending the Poplar. Summon the Ash. Ash effect, Poplar effect. Grabbing Oak here, because there's not much else we need to grab. Ash effect, summon the Flamberge. We're going to summon Mega Corella here. Mega Corella effect. They're going to Howling here to put this Flamberge back in the hand. We're going to summon Leos. Leos effect and Dynamis Charge effect to put that Ceratops back in the hand. They're playing very smart here, I will say. We're going to Wanted here to put back the original Sinful Spoils. We're going to draw a card. Fenrir, why did you have to draw right now? Oh well. We're going to set the other evo-singularity here, and then we're going to make Typhon. It's crazy that you can just make Typhon off of any crappy monster. We're going to activate the effect of Typhon, putting back the Genius, and we're going to go battle to get over the Plesio. But they choose to protect it with the effect of Dynamis Spinos, which opens up a spell trap zone for us to activate the effect of Sinful Spoils of Subversion Snake-Eye. This allows us to put Plesio in their zone, but they're going to negate that with the effect of the other Dynamis Plesios. So they're protected for now. If we had put that in their Pendulum Scale, they would not be able to Pendulum Summon anymore. Because it would not actually be scaled up. It would just be a spell trap in the Pendulum Zone, weirdly enough. Very strange ruling that would really work to our advantage here. We're going to evo-singularity during their turn, during their standby phase, because I was able to get it set up in time. They're going to then extrav here. We're going to negate that. They're going to Howling. We're going to negate that. We're going to evo-singularity for another one. Double Lars, baby. That's what I love this deck. They're going to charge. We're going to negate that. They're going to Howling. We're going to negate that. I'm all in. You can't stop me. They're going to charge in a Pendulum Scale zone. So they no longer can Pendulum Summon. They're going to summon Plesio and then summon Ceratops. That allows them to get over Lars, or at least one of our Lars. Unfortunately for them, we do draw the Feather Duster. They're going to then use the effect of Howling to put Lars back to deck, and use the effect of the other Howling to put back Typhon as well. We're going to clear their entire board, and then use Wanted to draw a card, and then Fenrir, baby! It's Fenrir time. Fenrir, search Fenrir. Attack in. And our opponent is going to surrender there, because really there's no coming back from that Feather Duster. That basically is all the game, all on its own. Wow, what a game though. Incredible. I wish Dynamis was this playable all the time. Alright, and now for that game 3, we've got Fish. It's a goatee deck, but it's got some funny little stuff in here. I think it's pretty neat. We've got a pretty bad hand though. We have Leos, which is really not who we want to be normal summoning, although we can in a pinch. We've got Sinful Spoils of Subversion Snake-Eye, which is just good not interruptions, good disruption, a good board breaker, but that's about it. And then we got 3 interruptions that are all various forms of targeted negation. It's not bad though, it could be a lot worse. Our opponent's going to start by activating the field spell, and then activating Sea Stealth 2 after setting Ice Barrier. They're going to banish the Pseus, to activate this effect of banish Paces, and then they're going to summon the Pseus to eat our infinite impermanence. No search for you. Alright, we're going to draw another infinite impermanence. Great. They're going to summon the Paces. We're going to use Sinful Spoils of Subversion to bait out the summon right now. They're going to go into White Aura Whale. We're going to summon Evol Leos. They don't get to activate the effect of White Aura Whale because we have no monsters on field. That's why baiting out that was so good. We're going to Leos here, get the evo-singularity, which we cannot activate. We're going to activate the effect of Leos, and then send Mega Chirella in order to get an Evil tile in grave. So once Evol Leos hits the grave, we have officially gotten the materials for evo-singularity. And then we're going to use the second part of the effect to turn both Evol Leos and White Aura Whale into level 1 reptile monsters, just like Mega Chirella. This means that they cannot do their stupid synchro summon crap with it, because it's no longer a fish and it's no longer a level 8 monster. Incredible. What an incredible way to interrupt them. They're going to go Lifeless Leaf Fish. We're going to imperm that. It also hits the C stealth attack behind it. They're going to deactivate the effect of Pisces to grab Keef. And then they're going to Keef and Pisces, and we're going to Veiler the Pisces so they don't get another one. Pisces. They're going to white mirror the Paces, which is awful for us. Just a really, really bad day for us. They're going to use those to go into Ascon. We're going to Veiler that. They try to get rid of our evo-singularity. They're going to attack over Leos. Then they're going to attack it with White Aura Whale. I let that go because our guys are just too small. These guys would hit over them and we wouldn't have any recourse for it. So I wait, and then when the Lifeless Leaf Fish goes for it, I go evo-singularity. Now we're getting Lars on field. They're going to go into Abyss Keeper for some reason. We're going to negate that. Then they go Lifeless Leaf Fish, putting a bunch of stuff back, and then drawing a card. We draw Leos for turn. Great, awesome, just what I wanted. Leos effect. We're going to grab the evo-singularity, set it to field. We're going to attack in. They're going to activate Ice Barrier to try and stop us, and then we're just going to negate it. Simple as. We get to attack over the Abyss Keeper. We get to attack over the Keef. They're going to activate the effect of Ice Barrier and then add another Goatee to hand. We're going to activate the effect of Mega Chirella, but we only have one Evol Soar monster in Grave, so we're only going to attach one material, but that's all we need, because what I'm planning on doing, and we're gonna use the effect of Leos here to put another Evol Tile, because we have evo-singularity on field, and I want to make sure I take advantage of that. But yeah, we're going to use Leos here, and then we're going to make... Oh, we're also going to make Ascon a level 1 reptile, again disrupting their plans of synchro summoning. But yeah, we're going to make Zeus on top of our Lars, just as some good removal. Our opponent is then going to start popping off. They're really just going to combo for a while here. They're going to activate the effect of a bunch of Goatee monsters. I don't really know what each individual card of these... I've not actually touched Goatee, weirdly enough. Just hasn't been something I've played. So I don't know the names of these cards or exactly what they do. They're going into Coral Anemone, and then they're tribute summoning for Sentry of the Goatee for some reason. They go into Adamancipator Risen. We're going to Zeus here. There's really not much point to activating evo-singularity. I guess we could theoretically activate evo-singularity and then activate Zeus. It's really rough. It's really rough situation here. Zeus is going to send everything off. They're going to get back their Ascon though, because they used an effect that allows it to be banished instead of regularly removed. They're going to then use the effect of the most distant deepest depths to banish it again to add the field spell back to hand. And then we're going to pass turn. We get Evo Diversity here. This seems like a good draw at first. I'm like, oh boy, I can get Mega Chirella and then make a play. Unfortunately, we don't have any other cards in hand, and they get to summon a bunch of cards here. We get Mega Chirella. I summon the Mega Chirella, all happy, and then I remember, oh yeah, this card is terrible! It requires you to tribute itself and discard a card, and I don't have a card to discard, so we're going to use it to make Anima. Try and activate the Anima, but they're going to activate this before we get a chance to activate it. Go into Lifeless Leaf Fish, activate the effect. Then they're going to go into Arianpas effect, Rep, or Zep, I should say. And they're going to go into Ascon effect to banish itself and Zeus. And then Ascon effect gets them the Angler, a Silent Angler. A bit of a weird one. They're going to banish Zeus, they're going to banish Ascon, Ascon comes back. They summon a bunch of guys. At this point, the game is just over. And I figured that out in just a little bit. Should be right there. There we go. Yeah, a bit of a disappointing one, but we put up a good fight, and God, this deck that we were playing against was pretty sick. But yeah, this shows you a bit of the problem of this deck. It still has some problems occasionally with not drawing the right combination of cards, and it obviously lacks a lot of recovery. But it's a lot better than it was. The recovery is a lot stronger, and the consistency is much more there. So where does this leave us? Well, this is obviously the most powerful the deck has ever been. The Snake-Eye cards significantly increase both the consistency and the ceiling of the deck, which is really all you can ask for. The varied end boards also provide flexibility if you know your matchup going in, like after siding, or if you're going second. Speaking of going second, you finally have play as going second. This is a huge step up with the deck, with both Fenrir and Align to Reach access code providing a way to equalize the game. Evol has never felt better than this. On the other hand, the new Evol has some new weaknesses. You're doing a lot more special summons and searches, meaning that both Droll and Nibiru, which are floating around the format, may end your game plan before it begins. There are plays that avoid it, but whether or not you play around it depends on what you draw, not really on your read of the interruption in hand. Additionally, the combo is more resilient than it's ever been before, but depending on the hand, there are still some key choke points where 1 or 2 negations might end the line. Luckily, you'll usually be able to end on something, but it depends on how savvy your opponent is. Lastly is drawing garnets. You saw that in some of the games. You're running some really nasty garnets in this deck, most of which don't end the combo, but all of which will be extremely annoying. They give you discard for Diabell Star, but the pain you will feel drawing them is something you'll just need to get used to. Overall, I think this build is really cool. I'm known to be a bit biased towards this deck in particular, but I feel like it's not exaggeration to say that this deck could do some serious work at your locals, and might potentially be able to throw some weight around at a tournament. Certainly it's not anything higher than Rogue, and if it is Rogue, it's a very low Rogue, but the power you'll feel activating evo-singularity is something that you just cannot find anywhere else. It could definitely give you some wins on Master Duel Ladder, where the best of one format will definitely serve you well. Hopefully this deck serves you well, or gives you some ideas for your own build, and if it does, feel free to let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hey there, thanks for watching this deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any other thoughts on the build, or if you played this deck and how it did. Also make sure to follow me on Twitch and Twitter for more. And maybe throw a couple bucks my way on Patreon if you like. I hope to see you again, so be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and have a wonderful rest of whatever time it is for you. Bye!